This thing on. So I'll be saying or explaining how my process began into the automotive industry. Um, Currently 22. My process began at 15. I was thinking of looking through a job because that's what any 15-year-old does, right? Or should be doing because your future depends on your continued education, what you do, and you can either get a head start or wait until you graduate and figure out what to do later, which what I would think would be one of the worst decisions you could make. Because when you're still in high school, you get free training at your local technical college. What would you not use that towards your benefit and not have to pay when you have the option to get it free? If anything, you could like pay like a $60, the $100, 150 a year fee, but that's nothing compared to the thousands that you would normally pay. So I would say starting early would be the best thing you can do in any industry, because I'm sure your local college, community college, has got something related to what you want to do, and you should know what you want to do before starting anything. That's one of the worst decisions you can have is not knowing what you want to do. So I was doing research and what I wanted to do. I wanted to go into several different industries, but I needed one that would pay strictly depending on the work I put in versus hourly. Hourly will not does not according to my calculations, I've realized that anything hourly in the long run is not worth it unless you make your own business on whatever it is you're working. Especially in the blue collar, a lot of them are well paid. They're hourly, but if you make your own business, you get to charge what the business is charging. And most of the time, you're earning maybe 5 to 15% of what they're charging the customer. And then all that, a lot of it is after paying everything is what they end up keeping, which would be profit. But you're only getting in the very low numbers when you're hourly, which is normal. You're just a worker. You're not taking all the risk. The business is taking the risk. So then I found automotive, and automotive was the spot where I could grow and be flat rate and make as many hours as I wanted, and I would get paid for them. The only tricky part about it is that there's no overtime. If you flag more than 80 hours, you will not get paid time and a half, which is very annoying. And quite frankly, that's where the that's where you end up losing. But that's for an efficient. It's pretty hard to get over 100%, but it's definitely not impossible if you're all you're doing is working. So I thought automotive. So then I went into the automotive school during high school. All of it paid off, paid free because it was free, of course. Graduated. The best thing about the community college, you have to get one with an actual experienced instructor with real life experience, as well as a place that has hands on training. Because you can learn theory all you want, but putting theory and real life work into effect, it's very different. I went during my employment of over 4 years, several people would quit because they came out of school and they didn't know what to do. Or then they did go to school, knew a little bit, but they just had no drive to make him grow in the industry. And then they end up just going to switching to a completely different career. But I believe not because no, it's not because they aren't capable. It's because they had no one to guide them going through the right steps of moving up. Because moving up in the automotive industry is not hard. I can tell you that. It just takes time and someone to teach you how to get there. Because people have done it. If I was able to do it, anybody can do it. At 22, almost fully master certified, or senior certified, almost for everything. It does not take. In order to earn more money, you do have to be uh, good at negotiating your pay. But you can't negotiate if you haven't increase your training, your hours, and your production, everything. Because anybody can ask for more money, but you have to convince your manager why you deserve to earn more than what you're currently earning. Most of the cases you shouldn't because you're already getting underpaid, but that's just part of life, business. In order to move up, you have to convince someone else to give you more money. So during the automotive, since I had a skilled and an actual instructor that was in the repair industry for several years and was fully certified, he teach me a lot, teach everybody a lot. It just depends on who listens. If you have you can have a good, great teacher, the best teacher ever. But if you're not listening and not paying attention to what you should be doing, not getting the right things out of what they're teaching, the only person that's getting affected is you, because that instructor is still getting paid. The only thing is that you're not moving up. You're still in the same spot you were before if you didn't make a move or were better. So even after his training, there were several people that would quit, but he would try so hard, and I'm very grateful for that instructor at my technical college, community college. It did help me a lot. And he was actually a Ford previous employee. And that's where I wanted to go, because another thing about automotive, if you don't have work, you won't make enough hours. You won't gain enough experience. The more experience you get is the more work you do. The more work you do, the more qualified and more likely you are to beat the flat rate time. If I get a job several times, after the third, fourth time, it's just second. It's just nothing. You can beat the time in half. You really can. And even now, after experience, all I have to do is do the job once, and then I know, okay, I only need this and that tool, and then it'll take me this amount of time. But that's just experience. But you have to get through the first door, which is learning how the components work. You can't fix something you don't know how it operates properly. You have to know how it operates, and then what's the concern. And experience is what tells you, okay, according to this concern is where I'll have to go to, or is this area, in order to find the concern quicker. Or I possibly already know where it's at because of the concern, because I've had the experience of it, getting it done. Being where I live, you see all types of different things. There's snow, rain, water, sun, barely any sun, but that just means that I get the most amount of experience, because anything that could possibly go wrong has went wrong. Corrosion, flooded vehicles, salvage vehicles, well, it happens everywhere, but it's just more likely to get as many different experiences versus having just a sunny place where it's just fully sunny. And maybe even places where there's pure rain have more experience, but all vehicles are different, and you learn a lot with experience, which you can't get experience unless you work on several hundreds of vehicles, flagging several hours of actual diagnostics, not just replacing parts, because anybody can replace parts. Because replacing parts is part of it, but it's not the only thing. You beat time by diagnosing the car first, and then afterwards, knowing how to properly fix it is the second portion of flagging a lot of hours. Because there's some spots where they only have diagnostic technicians, and others just have repair technicians. The diagnostic technician gets paid a lot more because he's doing the more difficult job. For the most part, not always, but it's harder. It requires more skill, and that's why it gets paid more. Replacing parts requires a portion of a skill, but you can hire someone just randomly and tell them, hey, you remove these bolts and replace this component, and then reinstall the bolts and torque them. And that's it. So it really depends on how much work you put in. So the first thing was learning how the components work. Essentially, disassembling the entire vehicle. That's what we did at the end of the course, because you would learn a component and then you would replace it and fully understand how it worked. And that would happen to with every single component of the vehicle. So yeah, you essentially disassemble the entire vehicle and put it all back together in just a series of very long steps, which was very helpful. And with different vehicles, makes, and models. So was a very helpful time for me. The only thing about that, I learned how to replace all the parts and understood how they worked. I just didn't know how to diagnose them. So then, after I graduated the tech college before graduating high school. So I was ready to go right after high school without paying a dime at my schooling. So then I go to my local Ford dealership, and keep in mind, I had to make money as quick as I can. I mean, I had no income whatsoever coming from a low income family. I need to find a way to earn a well amount of money to take care of myself. So I found the dealership at 18, maybe a month after graduating high school or two. Got hired pretty quickly. They they were asking 13 for an entry level technician and someone 18, but they were assuming that person wouldn't have any relative experience. But I was graduated, and that just helped me so much better because they're like, okay, he put the effort into doing this, and some guys in the shop are working towards that certificate, but they don't have it. Or they're halfway there, or they gave up, or they just stop going. But he has it. So that just helped me so much better just to get into the door, which was the first part. I could have asked for more money, 15 or more. That could have been, I could have gone higher that way, but I didn't know how to communicate that or how to ask for more money because I had nothing other than the certificate, which I didn't realize anybody else had it until later. But that could have helped me earn more money, but I didn't. But that was a learning curve, and hopefully, if you have a certificate and you go into a dealership, you better ask more for than what they're asking, because 9 out of 10 times the guys that they have hired have not graduated at that college, and that just puts you above them career wise, because it shows that you've put more effort into learning the industry than they have. They could have just done a couple oil changes here and there, or going to their schooling, or just school, their high school, because there's a high school program, but the tech college is better. It's higher and it's more in depth than your average school program. So then I worked my way up looking for a raise because I needed money. I asked him, what do I need to do in my interview? What do I need to do to get more money? So they say, we need you to get your emissions license. I'm like, okay. I didn't know what emissions was. I might have skimmed through that portion during my training. So I just went back into the school because they had a specific training just to get certified for the state or the county. I go there, pay their fees. None of that got. They didn't pay cover for that, but I knew that was gonna help me in the long run. So I get signed up as quickly as possible, get fully certified, no, or pass the class, and then go to the county, pass the test, 2 tests, and then get certified. So I'm ready to get my raise within 3 months. So I go to ask for the raise, and here's the thing about dealerships and business: they will do anything for you not to get your raise, whatever it takes. They'll find an excuse. Hey, did you do this? Did you do that? Something that will prevent them from giving you the raise. They just don't want to give it to you because adding even an additional dollar, they don't want to pay for it because that means a less dollar in their pocket. But I tell them, hey, I'm ready for my raise. And then the guy looks at me all confused, like, what raise? I'm like, I'm ready for it. It's been 3 months. I've done a very good job. Because I was counting all of my hours I was flagging, and I was getting very close to flagging 8 hours per day doing oil changes. If you've done oil changes, you know how hard that is. For one oil change, you get paid 3/10 of an hour. For a tire rotation, you get paid 2/10. So, and essentially, you get paid half an hour to do a tire rotation and oil change. But the worst part is that they would do that with, in Ford, they would do it for all vehicles, sedans, trucks, heavy duty diesel truck, all of them, a half an hour. That's that's what they would pay us. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. This is where shadiness comes in. They charge the customer more for a diesel, charge them more for a truck, and they charge them the base price for a regular car. So if you're scared of asking for a raise because you think you're gonna lose the company money, you're not gonna lose the company money. They just don't want to give you the raise. That's it. No company is gonna want to do that. The manager will never teach you how to earn more money because they don't want that. It affects their pocket. They'll do whatever it takes to get the cheapest labor and get the job done. That's it. They don't. That's all they care about. So I'm going there and asking for, according to my experience. My experience. I'm not saying everybody's like that, but for the most part, they're definitely like that. So then I get the raise. I tell him, hey, I need my raise. Like, what do you mean? He's like, well, you've been here for 3 months, but that's just an evaluation. And then he tries to pull. Well, have you gone to your missions? I was like, bro, I've left early a few times because I was going to the class. Yes, I got on my emissions, and I got, here's a certificate. Here you go. I've been doing emission tests for the past 2 weeks. What do you mean? Do I have my emissions license? Yes, I have it. And he still didn't want to give it to me. And he's like, well, this is just an evaluation period. And I told him, yes, it's an evaluation period, but you said if I get my emissions, I would get a raise. So then they gave me the raise after going back and forth because I wasn't leaving that room until I got the raise. I don't know who you think you are, telling me if I do this, I'll get the raise, and then I do it, and then you don't give it to me. That's not how this works. So yeah, they ended up giving me the raise, and was doing emissions for quite a while. And then there were technicians that were certified, old technicians, like for years. I'm speaking 7 to 10, 15 years in the industry. They didn't have their emissions license. They just didn't want to. Later, I realized the reason they didn't want to do it is because the company, the business, had lowered how much they paid for an emissions test. I said, oh, that makes sense later on. But I didn't know that until after. So the key about business, they'll fire anyone who knows the perks and kirks, the things it takes to earn more money, or if they're earning too much. They'll fire them, hire someone new that does the same job for less money. They don't care. So you thinking that they care about you is the biggest mistake you can make. This is an automotive industry. This is you versus the company, and that's it. But I was hourly at the time, so a dollar didn't really make much difference. So the only way you can increase your value after that, and in quick lane, doing oil changes, rotates, services, maintenance items, is by flagging at least 8 hours. If you let flag 8 hours, that means you're pulling your own weight. If you can't flag 8 hours, the first thing you should be focusing on is figure out how to make more hours. For me, it was getting different tools, special tools. So another perk about going to the tech college was that Snap-on has tool deals, and cheaper tools means less investment of me to get the job done with high quality tools. And believe it or not, there is a difference between buying Snap-on tools and buying Harbor Freight tools. There is a big difference in quality and how you can get the job done quicker. There are some that are hassle, but experience will show you that some tools are definitely worth it. And so I was able to figure out how to make more hours during my quick lane period. And then I go in there and ask for a raise. After asking for a raise, they didn't want to do it, although they were already winning because I was pulling my weight. Over 8 hours a day in quick lane is extremely difficult. Compared to everybody else, I was definitely pulling my weight. You shouldn't compare yourself to others. That's why I say at least flag 1 hour per hour you're there. That shows that you're pulling your own weight. More than that, that means you're better. You're an efficient technician. And efficiency is what will get you paid more. So now I got the raise because I proved it to him too. Here's another thing: keep track of every hour you flag per day. Have it written down. That's a mistake I should have done from the beginning because I could have showed my increase of performance and increase of hours throughout the throughout my employment. They can look it up, but they're not gonna look it up. Why would they? If I show him how many hours he's been flagging, well, then I have to give him the raise because he is pulling his weight. That's what they're thinking. So he tells me, write down all your hours and we'll give you a bonus. I'm like, okay. I write them down. The bonus was $3, additional $3 for every hour flagged. And I said, this is the best thing ever because I already know how many hours I'm flagging. This is later on because I needed more money. During my time is when COVID hit. So then everything got more expensive and I was already getting paid only $13 an hour at the beginning and then moved up to 15, which really isn't that much, especially how all of it goes to taxes. We all know that. But for an 18-year-old living on his own, you have to find your ways to pay all your bills. So what I was doing, I didn't have a car. I was walking to work because I was trying to cut all my costs and I didn't really have much money to gamble or invest in a car. And it wasn't that far, so I was like, I need to exercise already. So it'll wake me up fully before I get to work and I'm ready to work. And I have to spend the money. So then they tell me, like I said, $3 per hour. So I have them written down. I'm ready to get my money. Like I said, I'm gonna make bank today. I'm gonna go out and get a steak or something worth getting today to eat. Cause I was ready all my hours. I go there and then he says, sorry man, that's too many hours. I didn't think you were gonna flag that many hours, so that's why we said $3. So I'm gonna have to change it to I'm gonna have to figure something out. I said, oh no, here we go. And that shows you the shadiness of every industry. That's why when you look at many technicians, that's why they're annoyed. Annoyed, upset, they don't like working where they work at because of the things the industry does to them. Because they're incentivized because people are just greedy. You'll learn that in the long run. People are so greedy, they'll do whatever it takes for you not to get the raise and for you to work as cheaply as possible. That's my experience, and that's just what ends up happening because people want to be millionaires immediately. Like they don't want to work for it. They just want to hassle as many people they can to get there. So that manager was, terrible, but I was there for the experience. I knew I needed more training, and another thing that you understand is if I would have quit, I had roughly 4 to 6 months in. If you quit your job and you go somewhere else, they don't care about what the manager did. The only thing they're pointing fingers is at you. Well, why'd you quit? You should have stayed there. And it just affects your ability to get another job because you show no dedication and you show no commitment to the industry you're working on. Because more likely than not, they're the exact same company you're gonna go for, and they're gonna be like, "Well, we already do that, so sorry." We don't see a good fit. They'd rather hire someone who is willing to get paid less. So you're most likely not the next one in line. So then the thing that really annoyed me was that they want to pay everybody the exact same, regardless of how much work you put in. Because there was another guy, he had promised the same guarantee. The only difference is that this guy was the slowest guy you can think of. He would take 2 hours to do an oil change and a rotate. This guy did not care. This guy was the pure definition of hourly worker. You thought construction worker was bad, that is just standing there doing nothing and watching somebody else dig a hole. Oh no, this guy would take his sweet time. And you will see that in the dealership and any shop. I would believe any shop. He was so slow. But guess what? really triggered me, got me angry, is that they had promised him $8. So he's taking his time writing down his little numbers, and he's getting paid $8 additional per hour flagged. And I was like, who is this guy? Why is he getting paid that much money when clearly I'm doing more amount of work? I'm flagging more hours. And they were actual maintenance. It wasn't oil changes. It wasn't rotates. It was transmission services, differentials. It was all the bigger maintenance items that we get paid more, a lot more. They're the customers paying a lot more. We just don't get that bonus or additional money. The service department does, and they just put that in their nice little pockets, big pockets actually. So then that really got me annoyed. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna quit. I'm quitting. I'm done. I'm gonna go somewhere else. And I started looking for different places and went for 2 interviews. I got offered $3 more on one shop with a possibility of earning $2 more. So basically a $5 raise, assuming I got that bonus every time or incentive. And then another shop would give me, they would match the pay. They would match the pay of 18 of the other shop. So one shop 18 and then the other one 17. Sorry, not match it. So one of them was 18, the other one 17 plus additional incentives. So then I go back to the store and I'm like, you know what? I'm done. I quit. I told everybody I was quitting. I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm leaving. There's no reason for me to stay. I go in the manager's office and I tell the guy, hey, this is my 2 weeks. I'm done. And he laughs. I'm like, what are you laughing at? He's like, you ain't going nowhere. I'm like, what do you mean I'm not going nowhere? I'm done. I asked you for a raise. You told me you were gonna give me an incentive and you never gave me more money. And when I did come and get it, you said no because it was too much. And this other guy's getting paid a lot more than that. How would you do that? Why would you even think of doing that? And I'm done with this place. I'm leaving. I'm out of here. And then he closed the door of the office. He's like, oh crap, it's serious now. He found out what I was paying this other guy. So then he goes, you know what, man? I'm gonna put you in apprenticeship. What I've been asking since 3 months of my employment because I was ready. I had a training. I was ready to do real diagnostics. And he's like, I'll put you in apprenticeship. Apprenticeship. I said, oh great. Here we go. It took you this long to give me the apprenticeship? He's like, well, we don't have enough people in the quick lane. I was like, okay, but that's not my fault. You didn't want to pay him enough. That's why you can't hire anybody. I told him, and he's like, he's got no response because that's the truth. They want to pay minimal amounts when you can go to Panda Express, you can go to freaking McDonald's and earn a lot more with no experience, no training, no tools invested, which tools add up. And all that stuff to get paid $13 or to 15, that's not worth it. But that's why I wanted to go flat rate, not hourly. That's what I'm saying. Hourly is not worth it ever. Will ever be worth it. But you have to start somewhere. So you will get hired hourly. So then I make a case and he's like, yeah, we'll move you up to an apprenticeship. Okay. I go into the apprenticeship. The guy was training me. He basically he didn't want to train me. And when he did supposedly train me, the quick lane manager, assistant manager would come in, hey, I got this quick gravy, good job with a whole bunch of services that your apprentice can do. And then the guy that's teaching me, he's in it for the money, obviously. He doesn't care. Okay, I'll take it. And then he gives it to me and I get it done. I'm like, oh, great. Throughout the 2-3 months I was in an apprenticeship, I didn't really learn anything other than take parts apart and put them back together. No diagnostic skills were taught. Maybe he showed me how to use a computer, how to log in. Like, really? because he would do the diagnostic and then he'd be like, okay, we need this part. But what I did find out when I would, because the thing about that, I got annoyed, so I told him, hey man, I'm here to learn how to diagnose these cars. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to train and do something. Because I have a training and I understand how the systems work. I was learning to learn the diagnostic part so I can go on my own. So then he starts showing me how he does his diagnostic, and it's the sketchiest thing you'll hear. You might be baffled, but this happens. This is extremely common. So he's going through a thing that's called a pinpoint test, and he's looking through the entire system, the entire test that they have you do for a specific code, and he goes, "Okay, so on this one, I'm gonna recommend this part, and just in case there's an hour concern, I'm gonna add an additional hour and a half." So additional, I was like, I'm baffled. I'm confused. I'm like, so you're not gonna figure out what's wrong? I never asked him that. I should have, but he really didn't care. He's like, that's it, and then okay, pull on the next car. I'm like, okay, but yeah, that's just the person who ends up losing is the customer always with technicians like that and service departments like that, because work doesn't get professionally done like properly. Professional is getting it done right the first time, figuring out what's wrong. That's professional. I mean, I would say that's the pure minimum the customer should get. If a customer comes in to get their car diagnosed, they should get it diagnosed the first time properly. You find out where it's wrong, and you're able to prove it, and then you recommend whatever it is. But his theory was, I only get paid an hour, so I'm not even gonna put the effort to try to diagnose it. I'm just recommend a part, and if the part don't fix it, I've already saved myself by adding an additional hour and a half to fix any wiring concern. So he was able to diagnose it because there were several times that the part didn't fix it. So then he would diagnose the wiring repair, what he should have done to begin with, and then and sometimes replace the part. He just didn't care. He's like, whatever. I'll replace the parts department wins, I win, right hours, so I'm done. And then other times he would return the part, but he would keep the labor. So the labor made it seem like he still replaced the part, although he did it, but he just made the money, a lot of hours. And that's how he would make a lot of hours. And guess what? That was the best top earning tech at the dealership. So after I learned all this, I said, yeah, I'm not getting only paid $16 an hour. I'm good. I had circumstances arise and I needed to earn more money because that I'm already not getting taught what I needed to learn. It took me this long, 6 months, to get into an apprenticeship when it should not have taken that long because I was ready. And then he's not even teaching me right. That's just wasting my time. I knew in the long run it was just gonna be a waste of my time. So then I go back into the manager's office. Hey man, this isn't worth it. I'm done. I'm just not ready to do this. It's not worth it for me right now. I need to earn more money. This is clearly not paying enough. And then he goes, well, I have an opportunity for you. I said, okay. I'm gonna pay you $20 flat rate. Coming from $16 an hour to $20 flat rate is a huge bonus. I was like, was available this whole time? He was like, well, that's what I wanted you to do. And I was like, well, what's taking so long? I told you from the beginning I needed to earn more money. There's a difference between someone who needs money and wants money, and someone who wants to play with cars all day and one who wants to get the job done. The one that needs the money will get the job done, and he will get it done right quick because he needs the money. There's a difference between needing and just being there for fun or not needing the money. And I needed the money, so I was trying to figure out what's the best way I can get this done, the quickest way, and get paid as much as possible. The only way you can get paid well is flagging a lot of hours, and if you do it right, you'll get rewarded right. People will be surprised, and it's not even surprising. It shouldn't even be surprising. If you do the job right the first time, you will earn so much more money than guessing Guessing will fucking throw you into loops, places that you don't even, you're just going a completely wrong way diagnosing concern when you could have just known how the system operated, figured out where the concern happened, and then recommended the right repair. Because you're only getting paid an hour, so there is no room for you to be guessing. If you're guessing, well, that just affects the customer and it affects you. So then he says $20 an hour flat rate, and you'll be doing used cars, which was inspecting a used car prior for it getting sold, doing emissions test, safety requirements, recommendations, things that the customer might complain about before buying the vehicle. So I made so much money. It was one of the best changes I could have had because I already had to drive and I already had the experience, energy, tools, everything ready just to get this done. And the only problem was that I wasn't good at diagnosing. So if a concern would happen, I'd have to ask for help and figure that out. But most of the time, it was services. So I was flagging so many hours, so many that guess what? Like I said, the company does not want you to make too much money. Go in there. They calls me in, my assistant manager at the time. He goes, well, I've been looking at how much hours you guys have been flagging because it was two of us in used cars, and he goes, you've been earning too much money. I said, what? What do you mean too much money? Too much money? I didn't know that was a thing because I had asked him from the very beginning, is there a cap to what I can make? And he said, no, there's no cap because he had already capped me out in his previous little scheme of paid me more hours, more money for per hours, but then he never paid me the full amount of hours. So then I'm furious. Both of us are furious. He said, we're going to lower your pay to 16 flat rate. I said, oh my goodness. I said, if I'm flagging too much hours, I'll flag less, and I'm keeping those $20 flat rate. I don't care. You want less hours? I'll do less hours. That's not a problem. I'll slow down. I don't care. So if you're a good technician, you will get messed up for that, for being good. For someone who is greedy. Because guess what? They did end up lowering the pay. And who was flagging or keeping all that money? It was definitely the manager. He was keeping all that to himself. The additional 4 hours, $4 per flat rate hour, which adds up with all the hours we were flagging. Because there was so much, because it was during like right mids of COVID. So the car industry was going crazy. When I got hired, before getting hired during school, there was a chip shortage in all vehicles. So people were panicking. They're like, government wants control over us. We can't buy new cars anymore. So we have to do what we can with the cars we have. So people were going crazy buying so many cars. So we were getting a lot of used cars coming in, people trading them in to get more money to pay their necessities or whatever. But it was a great boost for used cars. There was no competition. They were like, the shops go out of business. We're going out of business. So everything was just going to the dealership because they had the capital to pay the used cars during COVID. So we're getting so many cars. We're working hard or whatever. And he decides to lower our pay. He lowered it. I was angry. And after that, I never worked the same amount of hours ever. Ever, ever, ever. Because of his little scheme. So I said, you know what? You don't want to pay me more? I'll have to do more training, more work. So during our meeting about me earning too much money, the assistant manager decides the budget and he goes, well, yeah, we can't be paying A level pay to a C line technician, which was the lowest. I was like, C line technician? What do you mean? I'm doing big repairs as well. Because after I was done doing used cars, I would go and find some customer pay. and figure out how to diagnose it, if there's transmission concern, transmission replacements, engine repairs, a lot of things, not just used cars. And that's what he told me. Oh, you're doing C line work. And I thought that was the most disrespectful thing he could say. But he has the audacity the next day after they lower my pay. He goes, you know what? I'm gonna need you, or do you want to remove this transmission, this 350 transmission, and then my heavy duty diesel technician is gonna do the upper oil pan, very common repair. But you're just quick at the transmission removals and installs. So, do you want to do this? I said no. What do you mean? So you're gonna? I told him. I used his own words against him. I told him, if I get paid C line work, I'm only gonna do C line work. He hated me ever since. After that, he hated me for the rest, forever, forever, forever. But it was the truth. If someone tells you their excuse is that they're paying you less because you do less work, and they don't want to move it up, don't do more work. Why would you? They're the only ones benefiting out of that, especially when it's shop work. But here's the thing: shop work and used cars work they were costing the same labor wise. So the company is still earning the same amount of money per hour flagged. I'm just not the one getting it. And that's what got me angry. I was like, what do you mean? I'm doing this work. You're charging the same, but you want to give me more money and I'm doing all these hours? I should have quit right then and there. But I knew that I could sneak my way in all the way to the top. It wasn't really sneaky, it was just putting the work in. Because then I was like, okay, so I do too much work. They want to give me more money. So what do I gotta do then? That's why I went to ask him, what do I gotta do then to earn more money? I'm already doing a lot of work. What is it then? And like I said, they will find an excuse for everything. You don't have enough training. Enough training. I clearly don't have enough training, supposedly, compared to whatever you think enough training is. But I'm still getting the cars done better and faster than your experienced, qualified, trained technicians. So what's your point? He had no valid argument. So, I was like, you know what, whatever. And I started working on my training. Training. And I get another certification. I go in there. I'm here for a raise. And he still has the audacity to be like, why do you want a raise? Because I just got a certificate. You told me if I were to get certified, you would give me a raise. So I got a certificate and they did. That's why you have to be informed with other technicians as well. Because I went asking around before going to the manager. I said, how much do you earn more if you get a certificate? After I got certified, I went asking around and they're like, oh, now $1 more for certification. So I was ready. I knew how much more to ask. But after getting a certificate, sure enough, the manager didn't even want to look at me because he knew what I wanted. And he was avoiding me at all costs because he knew I was going there for a raise. Eventually, I was able to trap him inside of his own office and tell him that I was ready for my raise. So I'm there for the raise, and he ends up giving to me because there was nothing to argue. And then I realized, okay, so all I have to do is get more certifications, which means more money, more certifications. Because I know how to do the job. I'm not getting paid for it because that's their only excuse. I'm not certified. So then I'm working on my certifications, getting paid for them. The best part about training is that you're getting paid 8 hours to go to school. There's nothing better than just chilling, basically reviewing what you already know and getting paid for that. That's what was going on. So I was getting my certifications and then I'm flagging all these hours still. I started flagging more hours because of the more training, which just was a great review and was going to help me for my future. So then the management, they were just upset. They were just mad. They're just mad that someone younger than them was making more money. And he told me too, we're lowering your pay because you can't be making more than we are. So that's your own fault. You're in the wrong side of the shop. You're the one sitting on the chair managing other people. I knew what I was getting into from the get go. I knew that flat rate was the way to go because I have drive and I have work ethic to work all day. You don't have that. How can you compare? We're not the same. Trying to compare him sitting on the desk versus me working all day and actually getting the job done better than his other guys that did not put work in. So that was his excuse. I was making too much money, more than him. And then the guy that had trained me before, he goes, "Well, you don't think you'll be able to make those hours if you were an actual mechanic or actual technician doing real work." I was like down. This guy, the top technician out of everybody, is telling me this. Like, you really have the audacity to tell me that instead of telling me, "Hey, man, keep working, try doing this and this to be better or whatever." But I was making top tech, and that's what bothered him. I was making the most amount of hours, so top tech would be a comparison of all the stores on how many hours were flagged. And I have proof. I still have those papers for proof of how many hours I was flagging. So he was angry that I was making more than him as a flat rate technician, and he had an apprentice. You know what's more embarrassing than someone making more hours than you is you have an apprentice and that guy's still making more hours than you. He was young. I'm younger, and he's got more. He's got all the certifications you can think of, all of them, supposedly all the experience, but he just didn't know how to perfectionize his methods because he wouldn't do it right. And he had an apprentice, so you have two people working, and someone younger, extremely younger guy, 19 years old, 19 to 20, was beating you by all the factors, and that's what got him mad. So I'm like, yeah, whatever, man. Agreeing with him, because the thing about moving up, you have to kiss ass a lot to move up. Believe it or not, you have to, and that's what I noticed. As long as you make the management feel like they're in charge, they'll give you the raise. They don't really care. They feel superior. They'll give you the raise. And that's what I realized. So that's another thing to get a raise. So then I'm making 16 flat rate. Technically, I'm making way more than that because I was flagging more than 100%. So I was going up towards the $20 range already. But because I was doing all the work. And that's the beauty about flat rate. If you're quick, you can beat the hour by half, the time by half. At the very end of my career, or the very end of my hiring portion, I was able to flag 2 to 1. 2 flat rate hours per every hour that I was present at work, which would lead to more hours and higher numbers than everybody else. Because I put the work in. If anybody thinks this is easy, it's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. The part of being so valuable or so hard to get there is because it was difficult to get there. Beating managers' payments, their pay. But I put the more work in. And I knew what I was doing. That's the big thing about having a plan. If you have a plan and what you want to do, first you got to make the plan and then execute. You got to go follow through and everything you set your mind to do. And it's a real thing. You can do whatever you set your mind to. Anything and everything. You just got to put the work in. You can think of it, but you got to execute. You got to put the work in. And I had a plan and I put the work in. All my time, all I would do was training. And then I would look at videos of other guys repairing vehicles. How did they diagnose it? How did they find it so quickly? Or what took him so long? How could I beat it? What method can I follow to diagnose this car quicker? Because the flat rate time is still an hour. It's not going up. Nothing. It's staying exactly the same. And then they start adding additional things to the repairs, which was a video of the inspection, but they're still paying us an hour. Another electronic multi-point, so filling out everything on the computer of what's wrong with the vehicle, which takes longer. Anything you do, especially when you're getting paid by the time you flag, every minute adds up. Every tenth is 6 minutes. You spent 6 minutes filling out the multi-point, logging in, whatever it was, closing the tab from your previous car, pulling the car out, pulling it in, all that adds up. In reality, you only have roughly around 6 to 7 tenths to diagnose the car. So you got to be quick. You got to know what process. You have to have a good process to follow in order to beat that diagnostic process, which is where most people end up losing, as well as doing the actual repair by by not being not having the right tools, not having the experience, not having the memorization skills, but in reality it's just not being organized under repair to replace a component. So throughout the process of working on all these cars, I figured out a way how to beat time in every form possible. Because I would just try to see a way to improve. But all the managers would see would be that I was flagging a lot of hours and trying to find an excuse for it. So then they're like, well, you know what? We're going to put you in the main shop. I was like, in the main shop? I didn't even have a proper training. I was only with that one guy for 3 months. How do you want me to go on my own if I haven't had a real apprenticeship? And then they're like, well, because they were trying to set me in the fire to show me that I wasn't worth working there. They had me and another guy. But their plan was to put both of us flat rate and hire somebody else or move somebody else to do those repairs. But like I said, they will always find a way to find someone else to do it cheaper. So then I'm like, no, I can't. I'm not going to do that. Like, you got to know your battles. So you got to choose your battles too. If you know you can't diagnose a car, don't even throw yourself in there, especially if you've never diagnosed it before or never worked on one. Be smart about it. Have proper training prior to throwing yourself towards a fire. So I tell them, well, you know what? You got to put me back into an apprenticeship because I didn't get proper training. Nobody helped me to learn how to find these wiring diagrams, how to use the system. How do you expect me to know out of nowhere? Because used cars was all different types of vehicles. It wasn't just Ford. So I was working with everything, every make and model. So then he's like, well, I'm going to give you to this one guy. But he was the slowest technician out of all of them. I said, oh, no. So he's just setting me up for failure. But this is how a technician, you should know. Know your battles. Know what the right move is for you. I don't care about the dealership, the shop. No. What's the best thing for you? They wouldn't give me to the slowest guy there was. And I said, no. No, thank you. I've already talked to him, and he does not. Is not the guy I want to be. The only people you should be listening to is the people that will are where you want to be. I don't want to be a slow technician. I don't want to be with him. I told him straight up. So, well, who do you want to be with? Well, put me back with that same guy I was with before. And the reason I want to be with him is because if he's the one making the most amount of hours, that means that he's the guy I have to beat to be the best technician out here. And that was always my goal. I want to be the best out of everybody. You have to be extremely selfish and be extremely greedy to want to be like that. But that's what pushed me. And that was what I wanted. Be the best technician out there. Because the best technician out there, guess what? Best technician out there is making the most amount of money. Well, not always. You gotta know how to negotiate that. But still, that would have just put me one step closer to earning more money. Like I said, there's a difference between needing and wanting the money. I needed it. So I was into whatever it took to get it done right. Because that's the thing that proved that I was paying the most. Getting it done right the first time. So then he's like, well, he already has an apprentice. I was like, man, that's the only one I want to be with. Because if his numbers are the ones I gotta beat, that's what I'm gonna be doing. I ended up convincing the manager to give me to a guy that had never had two apprentices. So I was the first person ever. Nobody had seen that. Nobody had seen one guy have two apprentices. But there was an apprentice for 6 months. Less than that. 4 or 5 months or so. Throughout that time, I told him I just want diagnostics. And I was annoyed with him, and he knew that. So he's like, I don't know how he convinced the manager, but he convinced him to be from him for me to be his apprentice. So I gotta help him. But the thing that they were planning on doing is having that guy be the foreman. So essentially, the guy that was there for any type of diagnostic questions to figure out what's wrong with the vehicle after having the two apprenticeships. So I helped him move up by me going out of my way and being different and asking for greater, bigger, better loads of work. Whoa. So then he taught me because I asked. That's why you have to speak up. If you want to move up in life, you have to speak up and put the work in. I spoke up. I told him no, diagnostic only. I don't want no services. Services, give it to your other apprentice. I don't care. Any big repair, I need it and I want it. And this other guy was fully certified. That's what teaches you, showed me a lot. Just because you're fully certified doesn't mean you can get the job done right. This guy had basically fully certified. I think he needed like 2 or 3 certifications to be fully certified, but he had everything. The only thing he didn't have was hands-on experience. So this guy basically was starting from zero hands-on experience. I had all the experience. I just needed to get fully trained on the systems they had to learn how to diagnose. So in every diagnostic, I would get it. With this guy, the hardest diagnostics too, modules, which was electrical, is the hardest you can get. If you can't get electrical going, you won't be able to master any like higher paying jobs in automotive because electrical repair is the hardest one to master. So he was getting all the heavy repairs, diagnostics, and I was learning from all of them and big repairs. And then I was ready to go on my own. Well, I wasn't ready, but he's like, "Well, you're going to go on your own." But here's another thing. They were sneaky, so you have to be sneaky to move up. Right before they put me to go on my own, I had acquired quite a few actually, quite a few interviews. So I was getting paid $20 hourly for that apprenticeship. Not really a big bonus because I was making more than that, but I was learning. So I was like I was fine with that because I was going to learn from supposedly the best guy there. And then although he really wasn't a good teacher because like I said learned so many sketchy things he was doing that instead of doing the job right, the main thing I learned from him was how to use the wiring diagrams and how to find the pinpoint test, and that's it. Other than that, he really didn't teach me anything theory wise because I had already learned that at school, and anything I did learn was throughout the training periods. So then I'm doing these repairs. I'm doing the repairs, and I'm surprised how this guy was able to make so many hours. I'm like, how is someone so sketchy able to? And I realized how why the automotive industry has such a bad talking about it, like bad reputation, and it's because of the terrible technicians that. It really, honestly, it's not the technician's fault because advisors are trying to earn some money, so they're trying to cut. They're trying to cut on the technician's pay already, or they're adding an additional service that the vehicle doesn't need, and the technician is the one that gets blamed for them as well. So at the end of the day, the technician always ends up losing. So when I'm telling you that the management system does not care about you as a technician, it's the truth. Because they'll do whatever. If let's say they recommend a service that you didn't need, they will blame it on the technician, even if the advisor added it. Because the advisor can make it seem like the technician added it, and that's the worst part. They would add additional services, or they would add if you didn't want to do the service after the repair, they would add a service and still charge the customer. Well, that's how they were making their money. That's how they were finessing, doing fraud to the customers, and several other things that they were doing. I'm not gonna get too much into depth because of limited time. No, but they were doing so much sketchy stuff, and that just throws a bad rep for everybody. because they just say everybody's the same. That's just how it goes and everything. So then, oh, hold on. So then I go on my own and start working on my own diagnostic, getting my own queue of the vehicles that come in, customer work, customer pay work of repairs. I was only getting customer pay, diagnostics, and repairs. So that helped me flag hours and learn how to diagnose cars. So the best thing that I liked is that I started from the bottom. I could have went straight after school to the diagnostic process, but because I had perfectionized the maintenance part of it, beating time. You can, even if it's easy, you can still beat time on maintenance, repairs, transmissions, differentials, transfer cases, everything. You can still beat the time if you know how to do it right. So when I was losing on time, I would look for some gravy work, which would be 6, 7, 8 hours worth of just pure maintenance. Because I had my methods, the right tools, I had the experience, I was able to beat that time. So that would help me to just cut even on my hours. So I was 100% efficient the whole time. And after I got the grip on or understanding where the wiring diagrams, pinpoint tests are at, and the process, I was able to perfectionize it. I was doing strictly just diagnostics, diagnostics. That's it. That's it. Nothing else. And then I was beating times because I was beating the repair times as well on the parts replacement portion of it because of the tools I had and experience. So then here we go down the line, a year or two into the job, fully certified. I didn't even end up finishing the story on when I finished the apprenticeship. So I finished the apprenticeship and I go in there and I'm like, before going in there, I had interviews. So I was going to be given $30 as a actual technician. $30 starting. And I go in there. I had a number in mind already. That's the thing. Before going for a raise, you have to know, well, so you have to be willing to go somewhere else if they don't give you what you deserve, and you go somewhere else to see what someone else would pay for your work, because it's all based on how much are someone willing to pay for your work, because you're still doing the same repairs. It's just who's gonna get the money, and the reason you should care about the money is because you're putting the work in. You're the one who struggled through all those hours, years of work. You're the one who deserves all the money. Other guys, they're in the desk. They're sitting down doing none of the work you are doing, the actual hard work. If there were no technicians, the service departments would have nobody to do their work. They definitely would not get their hands dirty or go out of their way to do training because they just don't want to do it. They'd rather have someone else do it and them do all the easy work, which is sitting on the desk and talking to a customer. That's not hard. The hard part is doing the real repair. Those we are the ones that should be earning more money than them. We should, because we're doing the hardest work, repair wise, maintenance wise. We even have to go talk to the customer and explain to them what's wrong. So I'm already doing the service advisor's job, which is supposed to be explaining to the customer what they need and what repair it's going to require. I have to go out of my way to explain to the customer what they need to get done when that's the advisor's job to do. I have to go to parts and pull the parts for them because they're too slow, too lazy, and we're getting played flat rate. So we're how any time long more time than it takes for the parts department means more time it takes for me to get the job done. Me standing there waiting for the parts to get to my hands. That's an additional time that I had to beat. So then I would pull the parts. I said, you know what? I'm not. You can't. Here's another thing. You can't expect other people to have the same drive you do. There are a lot of times you have to go out of your way to beat the time because they just don't care. They don't care that there's a customer waiting because the customer's still waiting or the customer needs your car. Sometimes check engine light just comes on and they're just like, hey, I just need my car fixed. I don't know what's going on. I just need to get it fixed. So if you don't put the work in to beat the time, it just leaves you with a unsatisfied customer, most likely not gonna approve the job, and a potential future loss of a customer. So I was able to build up my rep with my advisor eventually after a couple advisors, but I would never lose. I was always getting over 100, well over 100%. I'm making top tech, top tech, top tech. And it was based on several different other stores. So not just Ford, it was Hyundai, Subaru. Subaru was always winning, but they're also working on small cars and they have the same engine. Come on now. You guys, and they were doing fraud as well. So, I mean, I don't really think we should have counted those numbers. They should have counted numbers, but hey, they don't care. That's what they wanted to keep quiet. The fraud Subaru was doing. But Subaru eventually got caught. But they didn't care. They just hired someone else to get that shit done. There's a lot of sketchy things that go on to the industry. That's why there's no people talking about it anywhere. They don't want to talk about it because they do. They know that the store is going to get checked, is going to get all their books are going to get looked at, what things they've done, what type of services they recommended that the customer didn't need. Oh, everything. That's how a business goes out of business. But I mean, sooner or later, it's going to happen. It's just that the problem is that they will always blame the technicians. The manager at the beginning is the one who's doing the fraudulent, stuff, adding additional prices that the customer didn't agree to, additional services they didn't agree to, but they can't take the blame. So then customer starts noticing, and then service advisor doesn't know what it's talking about. So then they say, "Oh, it's an accident." So then what happens next? The manager trains the advisor on how to get additional money, and it sounds nice to the advisor, but if anything were to happen, the manager points the finger to the advisor. So then the advisor started figuring out that was what's going on. So the advisor then, in turn, tells the technician, "Hey, recommend this or recommend that," when the vehicle didn't need it. So then the way that the advisors would hide it is that they would say, "Oh, the customer is wondering how much it would take to get this service done. Just put it in your quote and I'll ask them." But they were sneaky about it. But I started catching on. I was like, "Yeah, they don't need it. They're fine." So then I wouldn't recommend it. So then that's where they would get caught in their little blame to the technician. But at the end of the day, they're always going to blame the technician when in reality it's management. Management starts it. Management is the one that keeps going down the line. So then if anything were to happen, the manager now blames the advisor, and the advisor now blames the technician. And then the technician loses. But when in reality, it was always the manager from the beginning, from the get go, and he's the one that's always winning. Because when they do end up teaching the advisors, they teach the advisor, "So I'm gonna need this amount of money. If you earn more than that, that's for you. But before that, I need my commission, my fee. This is my fee as a manager. I want this much. The rest is up to you." Service advisor says, "Okay," plays with the numbers, and is willing to pay the technician less or not pay the technician at all just so they can earn money. And I had managers, service advisors that would do that. They would just not pay you. And managers do the same thing. Unless that's why you have to write down every single work you complete. And it got to the point that we had to write down every single hour we would flag and then go and tell them and go through the books and make sure that we got paid. And we would always be missing at least a bare minimum of at least 5 to 6 hours. In the high end, we're missing 15 to 35 hours. If you don't look at it, if you're not attentive in the work you do, they will take advantage of anybody they can. That's why the automotive business is so sketchy. But you have to be woke. Someone else might not know, but as long as you know, you got to get your shit straight because you're most likely getting finessed as we speak, which I wouldn't be surprised. And it always happens. There was a time we were making so many hours, we're like, you know what? It's just 2 hours, 3 hours. Who cares? It's whatever. But all of that adds up. So in reality, that was what we were flagging. We were actually flagging more than the hours we were getting paid, but the managers would just pocket that. But when there's a shop with 10, 15 technicians, they're taking a little bit out of everybody, and then that's a whole paycheck. And it's just fraud. I mean, I wouldn't leave it beneath them. They were taking away, and when I was in Quick Lane, they were taking away my overtime hours. And I took pictures of all that. When I started noticing, I was like, why did my paycheck look so low? I worked several overtime hours. And when I come to realize, the manager had been completely removing all of my overtime hours. I took pictures, and yep, they were doing fraud. And that's illegal, obviously. And they still doing it up to this day. They don't care. But I was I was a young employee, so I didn't. This is my first job. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, and I don't know that was legal. I couldn't imagine realizing a couple of months later down the road, a while later, because of a sibling, that that was illegal. I didn't know that. And then when I tried to make a report about it, it was too late. It was too late to speak up. So I mean, I couldn't do anything about it. The key thing here is looking for yourself and not caring about anybody else. In the sense that they don't care about you either. Their whole reason of you getting hired is for them to have a worker, and you are just a number. So you must know how to get finesse the least amount as possible. And the best way is learning from other people's experiences. And I'm just here to share mine.